The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 919. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. You can now purchase Bridging the Confidence Gap, How Empowered Women Change the World on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Indigo, and other book retailers sold worldwide. Get your copy today! Well, hello friend, welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing woman on the show today. I actually met her in person in Manila earlier this year. I've actually been following her for quite a long time, so I'm super excited to have her on. She's also the founder of Connected Women, and I'm super excited to have her on. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Gina Romero. Hey, Gina, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
We finally did this. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, I'm Filipino British. I'm an entrepreneur and community builder. I ended up in AI now, so that's another part of the story. But yes, I'm the founder of Connected Women, and our focus is really helping women to upskill so that they can be ready for the future of work. And now we focus a lot on AI and tech. I'm also the head of special projects at MetaMatch, which is part of Connected Women's business. And through MetaMatch, we provide ethical data services for companies who are building AI. We started in this space in 2020. So we were kind of quite pioneering in the human AI talent space.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love that you're focusing on AI. I think it is so important, especially for women, to embrace AI. I know there's still a lot of fear and misconception and misunderstandings, but I believe if you use it for good, then something good will come out of it. AI is a tool like anything else, and I also use it in my everyday life. To be honest, I don't know what I would do without it. So I'm glad you're paving the way for that. So Gina, what's your cultural background?
So I was born in the Philippines, but I was raised in the UK since I was 6 months old. And now I'm back in the Philippines. I came back to Asia in 2010 when I moved to Singapore with my husband and my family. And yeah, we came back here to the Philippines in 2016. But I grew up with a lot of Filipino communities and migrant communities in the UK because my mom comes from a tiny town in the Philippines, and she actually left her town in the 70s to become a domestic worker, which is a really common story, right? The Asian story, or especially the Southeast Asian story. So yeah, years later, I ended up in Singapore, and then I met Beth, who was my son's yaya or nanny, and she had also left her two small children behind to go to Singapore to look for work. And I think it was that parallel story of being around communities of families who were separated just because they didn't have opportunities at home. And then hearing this parallel story of Beth and my mum decades apart, it was probably what really broke my heart and then lit that fire in me to try and do something about it. And I guess that was the point where I realized that we really needed better opportunities, better choices for women, and that tech could actually be part of that solution. And that's when my sort of real work began.
Thanks for sharing that. And Gina, what's your favorite self-confidence quote?
My favorite quote is something that I came across recently, actually, by Mary Oliver. And it's, "Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life." And I think that quote really speaks to me because a lot of the things that I've done, I just did because I was super passionate about it and just really wanted to solve a problem. And I think a lot of the time people feel like this, but they're scared or anxious or second guess themselves about how they might go and do something about it. And I think we just have to remember that we only have one life on this planet, as we know, and we really have to make sure that every day we really do whatever we feel is going to make a difference.
Thanks for sharing that great quote. And it's so true. We do have one life to live. I think that's a TV show or soap opera, but it's so important to realize that we have this one life to live and do the best that we can. I know every person has a different situation. But this life that we have is actually a lot shorter than we realize. We don't know what's going to happen the next day, the next month, the next year. So we do our best to live life to the fullest. If there's something that you've been wanting to do, but you're too afraid to do it, it's kind of like just go for it, right? Versus living life full of regrets. So I really love that quote that you mentioned. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's more about not having everything figured out and taking that first step anyway. Because again, like I have a huge community of women, and one of the questions that they ask me all the time is, I have this plan, I have this dream, I have this ambition, but how do I get started, right? And or they don't know how to get there. But really, I think their starting point is too big. Like how do I get started in taking my hobby into a business, and they have too many overwhelming ideas, but they haven't actually figured out the immediate next step. So I think for me, self-confidence is knowing that you can identify and take that first step that will help you find the second step. I never came from a tech background or an AI background. In fact, my background is really strange, and that's a longer part of the story. But I really just wanted to bring opportunities home to women in the Philippines. And I focused everything that I wanted to do on solving that problem. And I think confidence came from taking the step and then looking back and saying, wow, I took that step and what's next, rather than thinking, do I really have the confidence to take the next step?
Thanks for sharing that great definition, and I totally agree. It's one of the reasons why I wrote my second book, Bridging the Confidence Gap, because I know as women, and I'm not saying all women, most women do overthink a lot of things, right? They think they need to have everything figured out before they go and make that first step, when really you just need to make that first step because that's what men do. They don't know half the time what they're doing. They just go for it and they course correct as they go. And if women just believed in how capable they are, because I know women are more than capable, it's that belief system that really stops them from moving forward. If women really align their true capability and believing in their capability, just imagine what we could achieve. So it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be totally messy, but it's worth the ride. Like you mentioned, you didn't have a tech background, but you went for it. I don't have a tech background, but I'm willing to jump in and figure it out as I go. So I love that definition. And Gina, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
So I think discovery is such a great term, right? Because my life has really been a lot of exploring, a lot of curiosity, trying different paths. I didn't have a traditional upbringing. I didn't have a traditional education. So there was never really a clear path ahead of me. And I know that people who are kind of born into families or lives where there's a very specific expectation have different challenges. But mine was kind of, a blank canvas, if you like. So I just tried lots of different things and never really knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I think all of those different things that I managed to do, like building a business from home, while raising my kids, like a little startup home business, and getting into a women's community and ending up in different countries, all of these different things. I think at the time I felt like I was just stumbling around. Like I didn't really have a clear picture of where I was trying to go or what I was trying to do. But I guess somewhere in there I had a compass directing me and helping me navigate from one thing to the next for a specific reason. And then when I look back, I realized that I must have been searching for that deeper impact that I wanted to make, like my upbringing and things that I'd experienced from being born in the Philippines, going back to the UK, and the different communities that I'd been part of helped me deeply care about certain things. And I think even though I didn't see a clear path, I just kept stumbling around, I guess, until I suddenly found that common thread. And I think that's where my confidence started to emerge, because I got it then. Like there was a reason for all these different discoveries and explorations. And suddenly the purpose and the clarity became clearer. But it took time to get to that point. And I think I was deliberately searching for it, like many people.
I love that. I love that you mentioned, you started with a blank canvas. Not everyone gets to do that, especially being in the Philippines, everything is so rigid, right? Like super rigid. It's like if you don't follow this path, you're a failure. I mean, I failed kindergarten in the Philippines for coloring outside the lines, and that really hurt my own self-confidence and self-worth, thinking that everything I touched was a instant failure. And so I love that you were able to just explore and just keep looking for something, right? A lot of people are always like, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? But instead of asking that, it's just like, just go for it. And if you keep taking action, things start to get clear. And what was that moment in your life when you realized, you wanted to create something, especially creating connected women? Creating a community is not easy. It's a lot of work. But what gave you the aha moment to get that started?
I think a lot of the things, again, that I've been doing have just started because I was looking for something and it didn't exist yet, or I felt like there was a better way to do something. And almost everything that I've done started literally tiny. So, community building, I joined a community and was part of a community first. When I was in the UK, I had an amazing mentor who was building a women's network there. And so that's how I ended up in that space of understanding why networks are so important to women. And then when I moved to Singapore, we didn't have a network like the network that I was part of in the UK. So I was literally asking everyone, like, is there a network like this that I could be part of? And they said, well, we have this network, which is for women in tech, and we have this other network, which is for this. And there was lots of stuff happening, but nothing that was what I was looking for. And people were just kind of like, well, why don't we start it? Or why don't you start it and I'll help you? And I didn't really want to start it. I just wanted to attend. But then, that need for something that didn't exist. So I think the way that that started was a really small idea. Like, okay, let's just have 15 women, have coffee together and we'll just get like a little banner and a Facebook post and a name badge. And we'll just start like that. And that 15-person event actually had 150 women sign up. So I knew that there was something missing that other women were looking for too. And so everything that I've done has kind of scaled very organically. And again, it was really just trying to solve a problem, trying to meet a need, never really kind of thinking, wow, this is the one. Only now, and it's really taken many, many years, I can look back and say all of the things that I've been doing make sense now because they've all helped me reach a point where they can contribute to something bigger. And I think that's just maturity, right? I don't think it's because none of it made sense at the time. I think it's just because I can actually look back with a bit more clarity now.
I love that. And I love how you mentioned you just started small. You just wanted to look for something. You wanted to solve the problem. And because you couldn't see it or you couldn't find that support you were looking for, you became the support. It's kind of like how I started this podcast because I was looking for resources that catered to specifically Asian women's confidence because I was dealing with my own and there wasn't any. And this was like, less than 10 years ago. So it's not that far. And I said, you know what, if I wanted support, I have to start it, even if I have no idea what I was going to do. I didn't even know what a podcast was. Really started just even when there was hardly any Asian people podcasting, and over 900 episodes later, here we are today. And so, because of what you've created, I mean, you have locations, pretty much all over the world. What's your life been like now?
It's been really interesting because, this space is so exciting and also so terrifying, right? Working in AI when everything changes every single day and, new startups are popping up and, businesses are sort of crashing in the stock market. And there's just so much uncertainty. But I think it's just very empowering to work on something that means a lot. Because, at the end of the day, whether you're building a small business or doing a small advocacy or you're building something big, it has to be worth solving, right? It has to be worth spending your time on. And I think for me, it's really like, it's almost like start with a problem that breaks your heart, right? If it's something that breaks your heart badly enough that you really feel that you need to do something, then I think, then you know that you're going to get up in the morning, even when it's hard. And it's hard a lot. So, you don't have to be qualified. You don't have to be ready, but you just need to care enough about something to actually get started. And I think that's the only qualification that you really need. And most importantly, people will help you. I could never have done the things that I've done without help. I mean, every single sort of success story, and I'm doing the air quotes, that I've ever done started because someone said, I can help you start that. I can help you do that. And I think that's where women, despite the confidence gap and other things that women seem to have a lot more than men, I think that's where we really thrive, right? Building those allyships, building the collaborations and helping each other.
That's so true. I think as women, when we work together, that's how we move mountains. Unfortunately, sometimes as women, we also tend to, stab each other in the back, have petty fights, and it's probably not talked about as much, but even women in leadership, I've heard stories where, they're the ones actually bringing you down instead of lifting you up. And then, I know this comes from like centuries of like old thinking and learning to unlearn these things. And it might take some time, but if we address this problem, then we can find solutions to it. And to the woman who's listening to your episode, she may be in her own journey to self-confidence. What'd be that one tip you would give to her?
Well, I think building on what we just talked about, there's always that one person who doesn't like you, right? Or that one person who won't support you, or even could be out there to take you down, right? Depending on how sort of the more famous you are, the more prolific you are, the more visible you are, the more likely there are that are people. It is that there will be people like this out there. And I don't get it. I don't understand why people think like this. But on the other hand, for every one person who's not supportive, there'll be 10 or 20 or 100 people who believe in you and want to help you and are really aligned with the problem that you want to solve. So, really look for those communities where you feel that people are there to lift you up. The minute you feel that that's not happening, whatever environment it is, whether it's work, whether it's, your groups that you're part of on Facebook, just get out of there, because once you find communities where people are really supportive, it makes such a big difference in getting you to wherever it is that you want to be.
Thanks for sharing that great tip, and I totally agree. So thanks for sharing that. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn. It's just Gina Romero on LinkedIn. And if anyone is interested to find out more about our community and upskilling, specifically focusing more on the Philippines right now, but do take a look. That's connectedwomen.com. And on the AI side of things, we have the metamatch.com website.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Gina, you can also head on over to the selfconfidence.com and search for Gina's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just want to thank Gina today for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Gina.
Thank you for having me, Sheena. And congrats on your launch of your new book. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you so much. And it was such an honor having you on the show. I know I can't believe my second book is out. It's so insane. So it's available for order, anyone listening. And listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. You can now purchase The Tao of Self-Confidence, a guide to moving beyond trauma and awakening the leader within on Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Walmart, Indigo, and other major book retailers. Get your copy today. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. You can order your copy of Asian Women Who Boss Up book by visiting our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.